Okay. Good morning and welcome to the informational session for the Child Protective Services worker, multiple positions that we have that we're hiring for. We have a pack agenda that we're going to be covering today, and we're going to start with the introductions here in a minute. What we would like to cover in today's session is David, our hiring manager, is going to be telling us about the vision for this position, the skills and experience needed for the position. We're gonna go over what the day-to-day looks like, um, what makes the role exciting, what the plans are for the onboarding and training, any work schedule or required travel. And also we're gonna spend some time talking about our recruitment process. How do we select applicants for interviews? And last but not least, we will talk about interview dates. Okay. So, Lisa, feel free to ask questions as we go. You can raise your hand, you can unmute, and we will go ahead and get started. Okay. So, again, let's go ahead and start with introductions. Feel free to list your introduction in the chat. My name is Teresa Camacho. I'm an executive recruiter. My pronouns are she, her. I'm going to be the facilitator today. It is my pleasure to be here. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to David.
Hi, good morning. My name is David Batts, he, him. I'm a child welfare program manager, and I am the hiring manager for these positions. But interestingly enough, I will not be the supervising manager for these positions, and that's something we can unpack a little bit later in the broadcast.
Thank you, David. Rochelle?
Good morning, Rochelle Peters, she, her pronouns. I am a recruiter for District 3 and assisting Teresa on our recruitment processes. So it's great to see you this morning, and we look forward to helping.
Thank you, Rochelle. Anya?
Hi, I'm Anya Andrade. I'm a coaching and training specialist for CPS, and I was a CPS worker for a little over 4 years.
Thank you all. And I was mentioning, good morning, Jamie, welcome. I was mentioning that we have a very small group today. So you're more than welcome to unmute and do an introduction or put your introduction in the chat. We're going to try to make today's session as interactive, engaging as we can, especially since we have a small group. We will be recording, we're recording, and we're going to be sharing this session with folks that are interested in that position. Okay.
Okay, thank you. My name is Shannon Senska. I am currently employed in public education, looking to make a career shift. So that is on this call, but you guys are looking for I would be a good fit. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Just heads up that your call is breaking up quite a bit. Just to let you know.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. We are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to David to start tackling all of the items in the agenda. And David, feel free to do this in order as they are, or however you feel the need. And again, if folks have questions, just raise your hand or enter your question in the chat, please.
Awesome. Well, thank you and good morning. Thank you, Lisa and Jamie, for spending some time with us today. I want to talk a little bit about the vision for this position. Child safety is the engine that runs our agency. Everything we do, all of the decisions we make are based on child safety, either maintaining it or achieving it. And so it's really important that people who come into this position understand that that is the focus, that is the primary focus. Marion County, which is part of a 3-county service delivery area, is now involved in what's called family preservation. And it's a refocus of our work on ensuring that we're making every effort to maintain children in place with their families before making that highly traumatic decision of doing an out-of-home placement. So the goal is really to engage families, you know, being trauma aware as you approach families, understanding the complexities of not only each family's circumstance, but maybe the overall complexities that present itself in a county like Marion. We are blessed with lots of diversity, both geographically, linguistically, ethnically, culturally. Of course, similar different abilities than you might see in other areas of Oregon. But what makes the Marion County unique is, you know, the rural areas that encompass lots of agriculture areas. We have, you know, the canyon area that was impacted by the fire 4 or 5 years ago. You know, we have a metro area in Salem that is kind of like a mini Portland. So lots of different, you know, parts and aspects of the county. You know, we share the space with folks who speak Spanish, English, Ukrainian, Mesoamerican indigenous languages. We have a notable Micronesian community in Salem. So there's certainly lots of opportunities to, you know, work with families that are different from ourselves. And, you know, our goal in the branch is to mirror or at least seek some parity with the community that we serve. So folks that look like the people we serve, share similar cultural attributes, maybe speak different languages. Our positions right now that we're recruiting for are English only and then biliterate Spanish English. For all of the other languages, yes, we would absolutely encourage people who have, you know, the ability to speak Mesoamerican languages or Micronesian languages to apply also. But the caseload isn't significant enough for us to explore a formal bilingual position. I see Lisa has a hand up.
So David, if you are English speaking only, does this mean that if you are working with a family who is not forgive me, let me start over. As an English speaking provider, do I have interpretation support to serve families that I don't share their home language with?
100%.
Okay.
We have contract interpretation in spoken languages and ASL. Again, for those times that you are assigned a family that you don't share that language with. So great question. Okay. I mean, some of the skills and experience we're hoping that people enter the work with is, again, the ability to be trauma aware. I think trauma informed is a pretty high level of work, but having some level of awareness of the impact of trauma and what it might mean for families is very important in this work. And also, again, the ability to work with lots of different families, even if you don't necessarily share that background, being curious, creating the space for them to share their experience from their cultural context, seek to understand as opposed to judging. That's very important in the family preservation model. We're also looking for people that can contribute to one of our foundational RISE values, which is psychological safety, well-being, and belonging. It's important, especially for people that are entering this space for the first time, that it be a learning environment, that it's an environment that it's safe and appropriate to ask questions, to say I don't know, to seek support, and to receive that support in a kind and humble way, not in a you should know better way. It's also important that people recognize that this is really high volume, high trauma work. Vicarious trauma is a real thing in this work. we are exposed to people quite frequently on the worst day of their life. And having the ability to be in the moment with these families, but also have ways and continue to seek ways that help you stay whole, so that you can show up every day and be your best self. What would you like to add, Anya? I know Lisa has a question.
Can you elaborate on what those supports look like? So vicarious trauma is real. And I see that it would be really important in this role that there's a really robust system to support staff doing this work. And so I would be really interested to know what that looks like for someone in this position.
Sure. And I'll have Anya add on to what I will respond. Lisa, we have some informal supports, of course, that happen peer-to-peer, peer to supervisor. We also have what's called the district care team, which is people who go through specialized training, crisis response, trauma response training that can act as that initial kind of dealing with you, supporting you in the moment. And then we also have our employee assistance program, which is called Canopy, that offers many supports that include short burst, mental health therapy, and other pieces that can help work through some of the trauma that we experience. What else would you add, Anya?
So one thing I really like is that we as a team in CPS, everybody kind of supports each other. And there are situations where, we go out on an assessment and it can be traumatic to us as well, being in that experience. And we always have the support of other workers, of our coworkers. If we are in a situation where we're not sure if we want to go out by ourselves, we can always ask another worker, go out with us. We can always ask one of the trainers to go out with us. Supervisors sometimes go out with us. So we have that support when we need it, or sometimes we're not even sure if we need it, but it's always there. We're not truly by ourselves, but we have people that we can reach out to. And sometimes it's just helpful after interaction with a family, just to talk it through with your supervisor, with your trainers, sometimes with coworkers, just to kind of process it again. But like David said, self-care is definitely a big part. It's easy to burn out in this job if you don't know how to take care of yourself as well. So having a plan of how you take care of yourself is really important.
Agreed. And, in addition to kind of the response in those traumatic circumstances, the branch does lots of great work in kind of investing in connection before people, feel like they're in crisis. There is a wellness group that schedules activities. There's lots of cultural celebrations that happen throughout the year, centered around food, again, with the goal of creating some connections and support and some spaces for people. And then, ODHS has really invested in lots of trauma support, and every month they're through with collaboration of Trauma Informed Oregon. There are groups that people can sign up for, that, support either their identity or their interest in supporting people with a particular identity around trauma and trauma that we experience. So we're definitely trying to walk the walk and talk the talk. So great question though, Lisa.
With that, would you be able to speak to what the training would look like for someone coming into this role?
Yeah, Anya, feel free to chime in. The first year of CPS work, you are drinking out of a fire hose. There is going to be lots of information provided, lots of information for you to kind of work through, And most people who've done this work realize that, they finally have their sea legs probably by about year 2, year 3. So don't feel like that all of the information you'll receive in your first year and how you complete your first year is an indication of how you're going to perform in this position long term. Again, lots of complexities around the different things that CPS workers need to do, the court work, people work, the referral work, the engagement work, all of the pieces that go into making sure children are safe and families remain together. So computer-based trainings, classroom trainings, on the job trainings, shadowing people, that ad hoc. Gosh, have you ever dealt with a family in these circumstances? 3 people popping over. I have. This is what I did. And so lots of, kind of ongoing learning. And that's really important for this role because I've been with the agency for almost 25 years now. And once a week, I get asked a question. I'm like, I should know this question, but I just don't. And so being, humble that we can't know everything, knowing your resources, knowing who to ask, where to get information, again, is a super important approach to this work. What would you add, Anya?
Yes, definitely the learning aspect. Same for me. Even now, I feel like there's something new I can learn every single day, even after 4 years, 5 years, however long, just because every situation is different. Every family we work with is different. And besides the official trainings, there is a lot of just learning on the job, going out with peers, going out on cases with supervisors, trainers, and just shadowing, observing how they handle things. A lot of that learning takes place, yeah, in the field, on the job, or afterwards when you staff a case with your supervisor, or different, I mean, we have safety consultants and different people that we staff cases with. All of those can be great opportunities to learn. We're also different meetings with our community partners. We work closely, for example, with Liberty House, our child advocacy center, with law enforcement, with juvenile department, really all kinds of community partners, and we can also learn a lot from them as well. So this job is really, it's constant learning.
Yeah, and to answer your question in the chat, Jamie, no need to seek additional certification. We don't expect people to have a trauma-informed care certificate. It's really important to be trauma aware. But again, if it's something that is interesting to you, that's another kind of professional development opportunity to become part of the care team and engage in additional, training and learning to be that, peer support for people. So.
Thank you, David. I apologize, Lisa. Give me 1
It's
second, okay?
okay.
I want to read the question because I know we're recording, okay? And I want to make sure that folks know the question that was in the chat that David just responded. Jamie was saying if I have had trauma-informed care training in the past year, but not in the last 3 years, is this seen as valuable skill or something I should seek to update before applying? So as David mentioned, there's no need to get that training before you apply for that position. Thank you. All right, Lisa, please.
Professional development. So is this a combination of you can self-choose some professional development? So in reference to trauma-informed care, that was an awesome question, Jamie. Thank you. My cat's timing is poor. Forgive me. Is the professional development training determined by the agency, or do I also have some agency in my professional development?
You absolutely have complete agency in your professional development. You have less agency in regards to doing all the required trainings that are required for the CPS position, meaning there is, training specific to just being a state government employee. There is training specifically to being part of the Oregon Department of Human Services. There are modules on the Oregon Safety Model, which is the kind of analytical framework we use to assess child safety. But Professional development could mean people, seek out leadership roles. People seek out roles in human resources. People seek out roles in different program areas. People want to become part of interview panels, so they do some specialized training to do that. We have people who want to become part of an employee resource group, and so that is part of their professional development by, either seeking allyship or seeking a group of other people that are promoting, a particular intersecting identity, advocating for, changes. People can go into a policy track and assist in monitoring and rewriting policy. So becoming a CPS worker is, for some people, just an entryway into something different, and for some of us, it's becomes a way of life, and we're doing it 10 or 15 years later. So does that answer your question, Lisa? Awesome, thank you.
There is another question in the chat, David. Um, Hopefully I'm pronouncing the name right. Is it Michaela? Please correct me if I'm wrong. But she says, how do you keep your employees safe while conducting in-person interviews with clients? Specifically, are there policies, standards, and trainings in place already?
Yes, there are policy standards and trainings in place. That's how you kind of get the surface information, but each family is, addressed uniquely. And Anya can speak to that, is that, there are some families we are, getting to know for the first time. There are other families that we might have had previous interactions with. Based on the circumstances, CPS workers are always working with their peers and their supervisors about what's the best approach. Is this something I feel comfortable doing on my own? Do I need a partner? Considering the time of day, the area that someone might be going in, the circumstances that are causing a family to come to our attention may require us to partner with law enforcement. So there are lots of different strategies to ensure that we're kind of meeting a family where they're at, but also having a sense of what safety could look like for someone going into their home. What would you like to add, Anya?
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that go into it. Sometimes we have no history with a family and we really have no idea how they may react. Sometimes families can be perfectly fine talking with us and we have very easy conversations, but there are definitely times when things can kind of escalate to some degree depending on why we're out there, how the family reacts. And one important part is really doing our research before we head out. We have various systems that we use to look up information to get an idea of, okay, what does the family dynamics, what does it look like? What may it look like when we get out there? Some families, we do have a lot of history and we do have tools, for example, when there are concerns for worker safety, it is documented in our system where we could see when we get a new case, okay, there have been concerns about worker safety, and then we can plan with our supervisor what's the best approach to make contact with the family. Should we take a second person out? Should we go out with supervisors? Should we go out with law enforcement? Most of the time when we go out with law enforcement, it is when we have joint investigations together, but sometimes we can also call them just for our safety. If we're really not sure what we're getting ourselves into, it's always good to bring law enforcement along just for everybody's safety. So there, yeah, definitely many different ways of how we can ensure our safety too when we're out in the field.
That's great, Anya. And to speak a little bit more on that, there's that physical safety, and then there's that psychological safety. Generally speaking, I mean, I've been in this work for a very long time, and it's been the exception and not the rule that there's a physical threat for people going into a particular circumstance. But, we are I would say 9 out of 10 people are not happy to see us when we're knocking on their door. And so as CPS workers, we are going to be absorbing lots of emotion, lots of anger, lots of nasty words. You know, the worst words come out of people's mouths sometimes. And so, especially those of us who might be from, the non-dominant culture other than the dominant culture are going to be exposed to some things because people are really kind of all up in their trauma, in their feelings. Their lid is flipped, as that brain kind of psychology tells us. And so really having the ability to absorb some of that, buffer it, not react to it, then get some immediate support when you're back at the branch, or getting a phone call from your supervisor is really important because the physical safety, sometimes, but that psychological piece and what we're dealing with is really something that you should be prepared for.
And just to say, it doesn't, obviously, there are those situations, but it's not always the case. So we can go weeks and maybe even months, and we just have pretty good interactions with
Right.
families. And I think always a big part is also how we approach them. If we show empathy and,
Mhm.
really come from kind of helper's perspective, we're not there to ruin their lives or anything like that. We're there to assess, make sure they're okay, see how we can help the family, and just how, like, our tone of voice, how we approach them, and the words we choose can make a big difference in how the families react back towards us.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. How we respond to that initial stuff really kind of helps set the tone. And you're right, that ability to just kind of be in place, let people express themselves without reacting is really important to setting a positive tone for the rest of the assessment. So great point, Anya.
Thank you both so much. That's very good information to have. Hopefully, we're not scaring Lisa and Jamie. And it's good to hear what you touch a little bit on what the day-to-day looks like, right? What those visits look like. Can you tell us a little more about what kind of skills and experience are you looking for these positions?
Well, I think, the skills and experience we've kind of touched on a little bit, but really, understanding that we work in human services. So we work with human beings, we are human beings. And so being able to bring your full authentic self into your work is really important. Having a general understanding and be willing to learn more about what families go through and what trauma might look like in a particular moment. um, Being able to work through some challenging emotions, not take things personally, like Anya had said, be a helper, not a fixer, but be a helper, someone who can offer some solutions, sharing power, centering the family's voice, are all really important things. There is some, I think, positive attribute to people that want to come in and save things, save a situation, but that generally is not a sustainable way to approach families. And engaging folks in that helping way. Most of the families we interact with, we have this short time that we're working with them, and then we walk away because child safety is not a concern. So I know I probably was scaring people with some of the worst case scenarios, but like Anya had mentioned, there might be weeks or months where it's just like, hey, I've had lots of assessments. There hasn't really been any major child safety concerns. And, we work with the family, we give them, connect them with some resources if that's something they want to. And, we move on to our next assignment. So that ability to just kind of be flexible and, deal with things in the moment, but also, being reflective of, gosh, this was a hard day, talking with your supervisor. This was really hard for me. I need some help about this, and then figuring out ways you can get some support to make sure that that one challenging day doesn't turn into a challenging week or a challenging month.
Yeah, I think flexibility is really a big one, especially in this position, just because when the day starts out, we don't really know what to expect. We may have a plan in our mind of what our day may look like, but good chances are that's not how it's actually going to happen. Because we get assessments that we may have to head out there in an hour or two later, and we just never really know what's going to happen when we get out there. What will we find? What will we have to do? So flexibility is really a big one.
Yeah,
There is a,
flexibility. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, go ahead, David. I was just
Well, I
going
was
to read
gonna
the
say,
question.
yeah, and in addition to flexibility, again, that resiliency piece, just, finding ways to have that can-do attitude, either individually or with the support of others, because, it's very easy sometimes to feel stuck or get stuck. And so just making sure that you're able to kind of figure out a way to get through a particular, challenging circumstance and find yourself better on the other side. So,
and also just to add on to the flexibility piece too, also meaning time wise, because there is, I mean, I think every CPS worker has to work overtime at some point. Of course, we all hope to leave the job or leave our office by 6 p.m. when we're scheduled to leave. But there will definitely be days when that is not going to happen. We may be out on an assessment at 4 or 5 or 6 p.m. and find that a child is unsafe, and then we need to come up with a plan, and we may end up leaving work at 11 p.m. Doesn't happen super often, thankfully, but I think that's something that everybody needs to prepare for, that those situations will come up eventually, and sometimes we do need to work overtime.
Thank you so much. I love how much detail you're providing our applicants. And, you're really portraying what this job entails. I appreciate that. There is a very good question from Lisa, and it says, what is a general caseload for these positions?
sure. Marion Child Welfare is the single largest branch in the state. So there is lots of work that comes in on a daily basis. I think more connected to the vacancy rate is that CPS workers are getting maybe 3 to 4 new assignments a week, as opposed to the 2 or 3 we'd like them to have. And so, that caseload is a little bit higher than average, or higher than historically we have seen it in Marion. Anything else you want to share, Anya?
Yeah, so I think currently workers are getting about 4 or 5, sometimes 6 assessments a week. Caseload, it also really depends on how quickly you're able to close out cases. And that in itself depends on many different factors. If you have cases where you determine, oh, there's nothing going on, I can write it up, close it out, be done with it, great. But sometimes there are situations where several of your cases may be blowing up and there's a lot of time you got to invest in them. And then that can kind of get you behind quickly. So caseload, there's no specific number. I would say really depends on the cases, on the worker, how well you're able to manage your own time too. And it can become overwhelming, but there's always help to reach out when your caseload kind of goes up and you're struggling with it. But it definitely gets higher the less workers we have, of course, but when we're better staffed, and everybody receives less assessments and can breathe a little bit. And it also ebbs and flows depending on the school calendar. So usually during the summer, we get a lot less assessments because the majority of our assessments are called in, or our reports are called in by teachers, school staff. And so usually summers or during winter breaks, things kind of slow down. Workers are able to catch up on their workload. And then there are busier seasons like few weeks after school starts, after the summer break. So really it depends.
Yeah, that's great. And, caseload per se, but more workload. Part of being a CPS worker is doing after hours work. And, we receive reports of abuse 24 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So even though we have a general business schedule Monday through Friday, we do after hours assignments. And so once CPS workers are trained up, they can expect 1 to 2 after hour shifts a month, whether that's doing an overnight shift, being on call for a day during the week, or being on call during the weekend. It's all part of being that CPS work. Like Anya had mentioned, that we have a work schedule. Sometimes that work schedule is tight. Other times there are times we're doing extra hours. So it's really, it ebbs and flows.
Um, I just wanted to touch on a little bit more with the caseload. I may be jumping the agenda a little bit, but with that, with new employees that come in, I imagine that there's going to be a transition time as far as receiving their own caseload. So working with colleagues or their supervisor, would you be able to touch a little more on that, just around the vision of kind of the progression of receiving their own caseload?
Yeah, for sure. And Anya can chime in too. I mean, generally speaking, the first 5 or 6 months are focused on the learning aspect, doing the mandatory trainings, getting exposed to the work, maybe supporting other workers in the work, kind of towards the end of that 5 or 6 months, becoming aware of what the work is, shadowing people. So you're definitely not going to be assigned families on day one. Month 5, month 6, I think seems to be the average I'm hearing, where people start getting assignments where they're doing supported work. And I think, to speak to Jamie's question around, would you say it's more team-based work or independent or a mix of both? I would definitely say it's a mix of both. Some CPS workers, thrive in kind of just getting a task list and going out and doing it. And other people thrive in having other people kind of partner with them or team with them based on either, like, I've never talked with a family around domestic violence. I have this person that sits next to me that is a little bit more versed in that. And I want to go out with them so I can make sure that I'm asking the right questions and having the kind of, framework that I like. And then for the overtime, is it something that needs approval? Many times, yes, we're not gonna. Sometimes it's required, meaning, like, you get this assignment at 4 o'clock and you were planning to leave at 6. There's probably going to be some extra time, but it's all about kind of working with your supervisor around what you can do. We don't want to, burn people out. There are some people who like to work lots of hours and some people who don't. But, working with your supervisor on an ongoing basis to find what that balance is for you, because we definitely want to make sure that you have, the kind of life work balance that works for you, and knowing that there's always going to be work that needs to be done. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Jamie. Yeah.
Thank you for the conversation. I want to go back to the agenda a little bit and just cover a couple of things. I want to know what makes this role exciting.
Well, I mean, for me personally, observing people make changes is magical to me. It's like when people understand, gosh, I'm struggling with this, and then they find those resources and that motivation internally to kind of make changes. To me, that's just, again, a glorious thing. And then when people, you don't necessarily get it all the time, but once in a while you'll get someone who, like, is able to express some level of gratitude, thank you, for either treating me with kindness, being humble with me, not making me feel like I'm broken because I'm struggling with this. So those are all things. It's that human connection that we create, that, keeps me coming back for more. What about you, Anya?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely exciting that we get to interact with so many different families, parents, kids, family members. We're really privileged to get a really close look at their lives, at their dynamics, what they may be struggling with, and get a chance to help them out, provide resources. Um, and I mean, also just interviewing kids, which of course is a big part of our job. Sometimes it's just really funny to talk to kids. Of course, the nature of why we're out there is usually pretty serious, but you definitely have those interviews with kids that are just pretty entertaining. And yeah, just meeting so many different families. We get to interact with so many different community partners, and there's so much opportunity for growth, like personal growth, professional growth, learning. And every day is just different. Like I said, every family is different, every situation is different. So there's just always something new. That's something that I find really exciting.
Sounds very good. Thank you. How about the work schedule? So I know you touch on, staying after hours sometimes, or being on call. But what is usually the work schedule? Is this all in office, remote, hybrid?
Yeah, well, Anya is in the work every day, so I'll let her kind of take the lead on this.
Yeah, not a whole lot of remote work. We spend a lot of time in person out in the field, seeing kids at school, meeting with families at their home. Um, so yeah, we do spend a good amount of time in the office, of course, too. There's a lot of documentation that's part of this job. Um, but yeah, so from a day-to-day perspective, it really depends on what we're working on, how many cases we have. There may be days where we spend the majority of the time in the field. And there may be days where we just get to stay at the office all day and work on emails, reports, and all of that. But I mean, when we have things come up, like personal appointments or things we got to take care of, supervisors are usually super flexible, working with us, trying to figure out how we can make this work. So sometimes we do work from home. Just generally, we kind of need to be present, so we end up being in the office a lot, but there are some opportunities for remote work too.
Yeah, that's great. And the only thing that I would add is that I think all of the CPS supervisors in Marion are on 410, so either a Monday through Thursday or a Tuesday through Friday. So that's certainly an option for people that like to do 410s. If people are more of a Monday through Friday person, then that just means 1 day a week. You'll have kind of a Plan B supervisor to connect with. But the 410s I think start, like 7:30, end at 6:30, and then you have the general 8 to 5 schedule.
Yeah, I think
Sure,
currently
that's
almost everybody is on the 410 schedule, and people really seem to like it. It's very nice to have a 3-day weekend every week.
Yeah, for sure. And the 410 schedule can be your schedule from day one, although there would need to be some flexibility because there are times when you're doing classroom training that is Monday through Friday. So during those weeks, you'd have to change things up. But definitely the 4 to 10 is something that people find attractive, gives you more of a work-life balance than Monday through Friday does. So lots of options.
I was going to say you got me with the 410s. I know that is something that a lot of people look for, to have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, or Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So thank you for sharing that. And then do you expect this person to travel around the state or around some counties?
No, I mean there's travel within Marion. Anyone that's driven from Salem to Scotts Valley, knowing it's a bit of a drive. But yeah, people are not going to be, generally speaking, driving all over the state. Depending on a particular family's need. Maybe you have a young person that's temporarily in Portland and you might pick them up one day, but generally speaking, you're not going to be running all over the place. Most of the work will be within the geographical boundaries of Marion County. So.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I'm looking at the agenda and it looks like we covered pretty much all of the items, David and Ania. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover before we start talking about recruitment processes?
I mean, did you want to speak a little bit about the branch onboarding and the support and training that happens, Anya?
Yeah, so when new workers first start, usually you have at least a couple weeks to shadow other workers, just going out with them on their cases, just getting an idea of what this work is like. And then there is a 3-week training called Essential Elements. That's all virtual training. And then after that, you still have lots of opportunities to shadow other workers. And then you start getting your own cases. They start off, like David said earlier, very slowly. You get one case the first week, the next week you may get 2 cases, and so on. But it's really meant to ease you into this position because it can become overwhelming. So they really do a lot to not let you get overwhelmed early on and really pace you at your pace and how much you're comfortable with. And then there are, lots of trainings. There are some trainings that are a week long. There are core trainings. And those continue, I think, for kind of throughout the first year. And then some ongoing trainings. But that's generally kind of what the onboarding process looks like. It's very, very slow.
I was going to ask something really quick here, and I know we have about 8 minutes left. We've been doing very good, even with a small group. Lots of good questions, but how long do you think it takes a person to be trained before they carry a full caseload?
Really depends on how comfortable you feel going out on your own, and that's something that's decided between you and your supervisor. I would say, like 6 months mark probably, but it can be shorter, can be longer. It depends on the experience you may already have. So there's no set time frame. Really depends on how well you're kind of growing into that role.
Perfect. Thank you both. Anything else before we start with the recruitment screening process and all of that? We can always come back to you.
Don't think I have anything else right now.
Okay. Thank you, David and Ania. And Rochelle, feel free to share if there's anything here as well. But I wanted to share with all of you the application screening process that we do with the state. I'm going to explain what Oregon Department of Human Services is doing, but I know the majority are for state agencies. We do the same screening to figure out who we're gonna invite to interviews. So with this recruitment, the job announcement says that we are recruiting for multiple positions. Okay, thank you, Rochelle. She put the link in the chat to the job announcement. So we will be keeping the job announcement posted until we fill those positions or until we have a good large pool of applicants, qualified applicants. Then at that point, we're gonna remove the job announcement. So the job announcement could be removed at any point. It could be removed next week. It could be removed in a month. So what I always encourage applicants with these type of announcements is to submit their application as soon as possible. The other piece of this is that we are facilitating interviews once a week. They're on Wednesdays, and we started this week. We did our screening already for the first round of applications, and we started with interviews. Applicants have the option to select a virtual interview or an in-person interview, which I think that's great. Thank you, David, for providing those opportunities. So The application process that we're going to follow is we are manually reviewing your application material, cover letter, resume, and workday application. We have to determine two things. The first thing we have to determine is that your application material meets the minimum qualifications. Minimum qualifications are listed in the job announcement. I encourage you to carefully read the entire job announcement and see what we're looking for. Okay, so that's going to be the first screening. If we determine that you did not demonstrate the minimum qualifications, your application is going to be removed. Okay, um, you're not going to move forward to the second screening. If you are, because this posting is going to stay open, like I said, until we are able to get a good large pool of applicants. If you get removed, find out why. Figure out, sometimes you might have the experience and you just were very concise in your application material. Or it could be that you don't have the skills needed for the position, but that's a conversation you can have with Rochelle or myself. Okay. So that's the first screening that we're going to be doing. And we don't use any systems or programs to review your application material. We sit down with your application and review everything. Okay, the second screening that we're going to do is we are going to score your application material based on those essential attributes listed in the job announcement. Okay, we're going to determine if you talked about those attributes, if you have used those attributes or those skills in past roles that you have had. Okay. And so whoever scores the highest on those attributes are the applicants that are going to be selected for interviews. We're doing our screening weekly. Are we doing our screening weekly? Looking at David and Rochelle. I will twice a week. Twice, every other week.
Yeah,
Every other week,
every
sorry.
2 weeks. Yep.
I have too many recruitments in my head. I apologize. No, every other week we're doing our screening for this recruitment. Okay. Again, just take time with the job announcement. Do your best job in tailoring your application material for this position. Demonstrate that you have the skills that we're looking for, if it is that you do. Okay. We're looking for a cover letter, and we're looking for a workday application or resume. You know, we were told in the past to keep your resumes to 1 page long. That does not help you with the state. I'm not saying write as a book, but if you have extensive work experience, your resume should be a couple pages, 2, 3, 4 pages long. Okay, we want to make sure you're including all of the experience, especially when it's relevant experience. I'm gonna stop there for a minute and ask Rochelle if there's
Yes,
any.
I was just going to touch on that as well. So, if you move through the hiring process as well, our pay equity team that assesses your experience and pay, they look at all of your relevant experience that you've had prior that can be applied towards this. And so, from a pay perspective, you want to ensure that we have a very well-defined picture of your experience because that will help you in determining that pay piece as well. I did drop our emails in the chat as well. Should you have any questions for us about this process, the application? Um, and also, if you upload your application, if there's something, let's say you need to make an edit to your resume that you have attached or your cover letter, whatever that is, if you don't want to withdraw your application, please reach out to us as recruiters. We can easily go in, remove that document for you, and update a more updated version that you would like to provide. It's those key pieces that we're there to assist you in this process with. Any questions or clarification needed, please reach out. We're happy to set up time to connect. Happy to answer any questions. Even reaching out to David for further clarification on something, we are there as your resource. So no question is a dumb question. We love questions. We love supporting you. And so, yes, we're there for assistance.
Thank you so much, Rochelle. It is very important that you understand what this job entails, because once you understand, okay, this is what the CPS workers do, then you're gonna be able to demonstrate on your application material how you have some relevant skills that have prepared you for this position. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking for. It doesn't have to be that you have to have direct experience. Maybe you've never been a CPS worker, but you understand the role and you're going to demonstrate that you've done similar things. Okay. So again, the screening process is very important because that's how we're selecting people to for interviews. Um, and our second screening is going to be done this Friday. We did our first screening already. We had interviews this week already. We will be doing more interviews next week. Like I said, we'll be having interviews every week until we determine that we have all positions filled. How many positions do we have, David, Rochelle?
Uh, more than 20?
Yes.
Okay.
More than 20 at this point. I know we're moving through the process with additional vacancies we've had up prior to work through the interviews and everything. But yes, we have a steady amount of positions to get you into the right position for you.
And this is a great opportunity to come and work for the state, come and work for Oregon Department of Human Services. I could go on and on about all of our great benefits that we offer. Okay, I'm not gonna do that, but I'll be more than happy to email you all of the great benefits that we have and why you should come and work with us. Okay. All right, I know we're right at time, but I want to get back to Ania, David, and Rochelle and see if there are any final comments, any final thoughts that you would like to share.
Well, the only thing that I would share is that, if you think this is, the line of work for you, I'd say apply, because just your interest in the work is enough to kind of get you started, get you motivated to continue your learning. You're going to learn lots and you're going to be learning lots for your whole career. So people who are curious, lifelong learners, people who like other people. I mean, this is a great branch to work in. Lots of great things happening, both internally and lots of community work happening. So, I mean, this is an exciting time to come to work for Marion CPS.
Yeah, I can say the same. So this position, it's a very, very interesting position. And there is so much to it. It definitely never gets boring in this job. I can promise you that. And I would also encourage you guys to apply if you guys are interested in this. I can also put my email address in the chat if anybody wants to reach out or has more questions of what the day-to-day looks like in this position or any other questions about this job, feel free to reach out to me as well.
I would say I personally worked in the Marion branch back in 2012. And I can say in my role right now, a lot of the same staff and supervisors I worked with back then are still currently there. And I think that that is a testament to the wonderful colleagues that we have within Marion County, um, our community, their dedication to the community, and the families that we serve. And so it's really a team effort there. And so like I said, I think it's a great office to work in. You will be supported for sure within that office, and a very hard but rewarding opportunity. So again, we're there for you. If you have any questions, please reach out. We are here to assist any way we can.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the stop recording here.